Giannis Antetokounmpo, affectionately known as the Greek Freak, had built a legacy of greatness in the NBA. Yet, his heart remained deeply connected to the humble streets of Sepolia, Athens, where his journey began. On a rare trip back home, Giannis planned to quietly revisit his roots. Little did he know, an unexpected encounter with a young boy would forever change the course of the boy's life and remind Giannis of his own. If you enjoy stories like these, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring tales. Let's dive into this unforgettable journey. The narrow streets of Sepolia buzzed with activity, filled with the scent of freshly baked bread and the chatter of vendors. Giannis walked unassumingly, his hoodie pulled up to avoid drawing attention. Despite his towering frame, he blended in surprisingly well among the familiar chaos. Every corner he turned brought back memories of his childhood. He remembered helping his mother sell trinkets on these very streets and sneaking moments to practice basketball with his brothers on a small court behind their building. His success now felt worlds away, but these streets kept him grounded. As he wandered further, he heard the familiar sound of a basketball bouncing. Following the noise, he came upon a small, rundown court. There, a boy, no older than 12, was practicing alone. The ball was worn, and the boy's shoes were barely holding together, but his focus was intense. Giannis leaned against the fence, watching the boy for a while. The boy's movements were deliberate, each dribble and shot carrying the weight of determination. It was a scene that struck a chord with Giannis. Memories of his own childhood flooded back, when he and his brothers shared a single basketball and practiced endlessly despite the odds stacked against them. Curious, Giannis finally stepped onto the court. The boy paused, startled by the sudden presence of the tall stranger. "Hey," Giannis said in Greek, his voice warm. "What's your name?" The boy clutched the ball tightly and replied, "Nikos." Giannis crouched to meet Nikos at eye level. "You're working hard out here, Nikos. What are you practicing for?" he asked. Nikos hesitated, then answered shyly, "I want to play in the NBA one day." "Like you?" Giannis smiled, touched by the boy's honesty. "That's a big dream," he said. "What makes you think you can do it?" Nikos looked down at his worn shoes and scuffed basketball. "I don't have much, but I love the game. I'll work as hard as I have to," he said firmly. The conviction in Nikos' voice reminded Giannis of his own struggles growing up. He asked more about Nikos' life and learned about the boy's family. Nikos lived with his mother and 2 younger siblings in a small apartment nearby. His father had passed away a year ago, leaving the family in financial hardship. "Basketball is all I have," Nikos admitted. "My mom says I should focus on school, but this is what I love." Giannis nodded thoughtfully. "I know what that's like," he said. "When I was your age, I didn't have much either. But my family and basketball kept me going." For the next few minutes, Giannis shared his own story with Nikos, how he and his brothers had to share shoes, how they practiced with a single ball until it wore out, and how they never gave up on their dreams despite the odds. Nikos listened intently, his admiration for Giannis growing with every word. Before leaving, Giannis handed Nikos a small note with his phone number. "Stay in touch," he said. "I want to hear about your progress." Nikos stared at the note, unable to believe what was happening. "You really mean it?" he asked. Giannis nodded. "You've got something special, Nikos. Don't let it go to waste." The next morning, Nikos woke up to a knock on the door. Outside stood a delivery man with a large package. Nikos' mother signed for it, confused about who would send them anything. When Nikos opened the box, his eyes widened in disbelief. Inside were a brand new basketball, a pair of high-quality sneakers, and a note written in Giannis' handwriting: "Dream big, but never stop working for it. Giannis." Nikos hugged the basketball tightly, tears welling up in his eyes. His mother, moved by the gesture, called Giannis to thank him. "You didn't have to do this," she said, her voice trembling. Giannis replied simply, "I see a lot of myself in Nikos. I just want to give him the chance I wished for when I was his age." From that day forward, Nikos practiced with renewed determination. Every bounce of the ball and every shot taken was a step closer to his dream. The shoes fit perfectly, and the basketball felt like a symbol of hope, a reminder that someone believed in him. Giannis kept his promise and stayed in touch with Nikos. He invited the boy to attend basketball training sessions and even arranged for him to join a youth basketball camp in Athens. Nikos, who had never received formal coaching before, thrived under the guidance of professional trainers. At the camp, Giannis made time to personally mentor Nikos. He worked with him on improving his footwork, shooting technique, and defensive skills. Basketball is more than just talent, Giannis told him one day during a grueling drill. It's about discipline, hard work, and resilience. Nikos took every word to heart. He practiced harder than anyone else at the camp, earning the respect of both his peers and coaches. Giannis, impressed by the boy's dedication, continued to push him to his limits. "You remind me of myself," he said, "but you've got to want it even more." Beyond basketball, Giannis also talked to Nikos about life. "Your family is your anchor," he said. "Never forget where you come from or who you're doing this for." These words stayed with Nikos, motivating him not only to excel on the court, but also to be a role model for his siblings. By the end of the camp, Nikos had transformed. His confidence had grown, and his skills were sharper than ever. "I owe this all to you," he told Giannis during their last session. But Giannis shook his head. "You owe it to yourself," he said. "You're the one doing the work." Months turned into years, and Nikos' dedication began to pay off in visible ways. His skills on the basketball court were unmatched in his district, and he earned a spot on his school's team. The young boy who once practiced alone with a deflated basketball was now leading his team to victories. One day, during a particularly important game, Nikos found himself facing a tougher opponent than ever before. The other team's defense was relentless, and his confidence wavered as he missed shot after shot. By halftime, the score was against them, and Nikos felt the weight of his teammates' expectations. The team huddled during the break. Nikos remembered Giannis' words. "It's not about the mistakes you make. It's about how you recover from them." Determined to fight back, he encouraged his teammates and came up with a new strategy. When the game resumed, Nikos played with renewed focus. He worked with his teammates, passing more strategically and creating opportunities instead of trying to carry the game on his own. In the final seconds, with the score tied, he made a crucial three-pointer, securing the victory. The crowd erupted into cheers, and Nikos' teammates hoisted him onto their shoulders. In the stands, a familiar figure stood clapping: Giannis. Nikos' heart soared as he spotted his mentor. After the game, Giannis approached him with a proud smile. "That's the kind of fight I like to see," he said. "But remember, every game is just a step in the journey." As Nikos continued to excel, his name started gaining recognition. Scouts from local and international basketball academies began showing interest, and his coaches couldn't stop praising his work ethic and leadership. Giannis, always watching from a distance, decided it was time for Nikos to take the next big step. One day, Giannis invited Nikos and his mother to a meeting. At the meeting, he revealed an opportunity for Nikos to attend a prestigious basketball academy in Athens. The academy was known for grooming young talent and preparing them for professional careers. "I believe you're ready for this," Giannis told Nikos. "But it's going to be hard work, harder than anything you've done so far." Nikos nodded eagerly. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said, his eyes gleaming with determination. However, Nikos' mother hesitated. "I don't know if we can afford something like this," she admitted. Giannis smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry about the costs. I've taken care of everything. I believe in Nikos, and I want to see him succeed." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Nikos' mother hugged Giannis tightly. "You're giving him a chance at something we could never have dreamed of," she said through tears. Nikos, too, was speechless. He promised himself he wouldn't let Giannis' faith in him go to waste. At the academy, Nikos faced tougher competition than ever before. The players were faster, stronger, and more experienced. For the first time in a long while, Nikos felt like the underdog. But instead of giving in to frustration, he remembered Giannis' lessons: hard work, humility, and persistence. He spent countless hours in the gym, refining his skills and studying the game. His coaches noticed his dedication and began mentoring him closely. Nikos also leaned on Giannis for advice, often calling him after long practice sessions. "Focus on the fundamentals," Giannis would say. "Don't try to do everything at once. Master the basics, and everything else will follow." Nikos took this advice to heart, and gradually he began to stand out. By the end of his first year, Nikos had become one of the academy's top players. He led his team to several championships and earned accolades for his sportsmanship and leadership. His story of meeting Giannis inspired his peers, many of whom looked up to him as a role model. During a ceremony honoring the academy's best players, Nikos gave a heartfelt speech. "None of this would have been possible without someone believing in me," he said. "I hope I can be that person for someone else someday." Years later, Nikos achieved what once seemed impossible. He was drafted into a top-tier European basketball team. His journey from a small court in Sepolia to professional basketball became the talk of his community. But Nikos never let success change him. Inspired by Giannis' example, Nikos founded a youth basketball program in Sepolia. The program provided equipment, coaching, and mentorship to underprivileged kids. "I know what it's like to have nothing but a dream," Nikos said during the program's launch. "If I can help even one kid achieve their dream, it'll all be worth it." At the opening event, Giannis stood proudly beside Nikos, watching the kids dribble their new basketballs on a freshly renovated court. "You've come a long way," Giannis told him. "But I think this is just the beginning for you." Nikos smiled. "I learned from the best," he replied. Today, Nikos continues to excel on and off the court, carrying forward the lessons Giannis taught him. His story reminds us that a single act of kindness can create ripples that change lives forever. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more moving tales.